Radio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning and welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. Hey, we go where you go, the world's greatest radio. You are in touch with the compensatory concept. I'm your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. On the lines, live from Washington, D.C., we have Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and he will be here to address your questions either by email or even by direct contact, which we will give you the phone numbers in just a moment so that you can get in contact with the show. Got to do some house cleaning. If you want to make a donation to the program, you can, and this is how you do it. You make your money order or bank check payable to the K&E World Network, Post Office Box 6184, that's Columbus, Ohio, 43206, in care of the compensatory concept. No personal checks will be accepted, and then we will email you your receipt, and all donations are final. Now, the purpose is to extend the compensatory concept for and an additional hour, making it a 2-hour program. Our goal is to cover 1 year of programming. In that, and let me make this very clear, do not send any monies or donations to Neely Fuller Jr. Don't do that. He is not in no way connected with this part of the show. This is a function of K&E World Network and Talktainment in care of the compensatory concept. So don't send any money to Neely Fuller Jr. If you do, he will send it back. He gets not one nickel, one dime from this, period. No. He doesn't do that, and he will not accept it, so do not do that. Okay. Secondly, this is what you can do. He is the author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. And he has a website called producejustice.com. When you get on that site, all the instructions that you need to get the book will be right there. And that's all you need to do. And he will take care of that. And speaking of that, Mr. Fuller, first of all, let me say good morning to you.
Good morning.
We usually don't do it this way, but today we're going to do this. I got an email from a brother from Spain named Aaron, and he says, Mr. Fuller, my father ordered the compensatory code book, but he hasn't received the book. He ordered it over 4 months ago, and I was wondering if you could help direct me to the right person or persons that I could speak to solve this issue.
Oh, well, as far as I know, the people who are handling the book overseas do not send any books overseas right now. They're trying to set up something where they can send to the UK and to Canada. But there's been all kinds of difficulty associated with that. I've tried to get that word out to people. If you're in any other place other than the UK or in Canada, you probably can't get it in any way or form or fashion at this particular time. There is an agency that is being set up to do some of that. But even for the United Kingdom, mostly meaning England, or Canada, there's no setup for that either, even though some books have managed to get through. But I tell people not to chance it, because I don't know where the correspondence goes or how that hooks up in any way. So if you're anywhere overseas outside of what they call the United States proper, that would include Hawaii and Alaska, please do not send any money or any checks or attempt to get it, because it's not set up for that right now. There are people who are in the process of trying to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All righty. Now, listeners, listen real carefully. Do not call in yet. Do not call in yet. I will give you the phone numbers, and then I will give you the email address. We usually are trying to have Mr. Fuller speak what is on his mind first, and then we'll probably do a station break, which we have to do every 15, 30, 45, and so on. And then I will give you the numbers, and then you can call in. So please don't do it right at this particular moment. Okay, Mr. Fuller, starting off this episode of the compensatory concept, what is on your mind that you would like to get across before we go into the questions and the emails?
Well, one thing I've been hearing lately is a word. I always tell people pay attention to words, particularly words that either have been around or combinations of words that have been around for some time, and then they are taken into a new context, or there might be a combination of new words, or new terms, rather, that will come up every now and then in the English language. And the words will be vague. Always listen for vague terms, or even terms that have been around for quite a while, either new terms or terms that have been around for quite a while that are used in another context, and the context is vague, and the definitions are definitely not precise. So you want precise definitions for words so that you can communicate more effectively, and that way the truth doesn't get lost, because the truth usually gets lost when words or terms are used in a vague manner. And once the truth is lost, you can't get justice. You have to have truth, meaning the revelation of things as they really are, in order to get justice or correctness. And people who are against truth and justice and correctness will use terms in such a way as to do what? Be confusing. Now, there's a term that's been around for some time, and that is politically correct. And most recently, I've noticed in the current political campaigns, people running for the office of president, this term has resurfaced quite prominently, and it's being used. Politically correct. I mean, some people say they are for what is politically correct. Other people say they are against what is politically correct. And then other people say they can't make up their minds whether they are for it or against it. But you always start, as far as the compensatory logic is concerned, what I always advocate, start by asking questions. First of all, what would the question be? And that is, what is the definition of politically correct? In other words, when something is politically correct, you should be able to list a number of things that are, quote, unquote, politically correct. If you don't do that, you will have, according to logic, you might have a lot of confusion. That's what you don't want in any discussion of anything, because in the system of racism, the races thrive on confusion. This is how they dominate people and take advantage of people and put them in a weak position. by, first of all, causing all kinds of confusion in any area of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. A person who is a master of confusion, and in this particular part of history, according to logic and evidence, the people who believe in racism, people who believe in white supremacy, are the masters of confusion. And so they use words all day long in such a way that they confuse their victims. So sometimes you don't even know that you're being confused, because the words sound like you understand what is being said, when really you don't, because what is being said is too vague. And then a master confuser will go from one definition to another. And they'll say, well, I'll define it for you, for example. And they will give you a definition. But when you walk away, by the time you get a half a block away from the conversation, you realize, wait a minute, do I understand what he or she said? Do I really understand what was said? Or did it sound like I understood? Because they're real polished in the use of words. And that word politically correct. Start asking people when they say, well, you know, that's not politically correct, or that is politically correct. Say, wait a minute, hold it right there. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? List everything that is politically correct and everything that isn't, so I'll know what you're talking about.
All righty. You heard it right there. Okay, you can begin to get your fingers ready. You can dial 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and I will try to read your question. We're talking about words, at least that is the opening comment. Let's go to the phone lines. Line number one. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning, Mr. Bobby.
Good morning.
I just called up to tell you that I mailed in $100 to the show in an attempt to get the show up to 2 hours.
Oh, thank you.
And just as soon as you get it up to 2 hours, I'll mail you another $200.
That'll be good. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're trying to do that. Thank you again. Did you have a question for Mr. Fuller this morning?
Yes. Mr. Fuller, can you repeat the title of your book and explain what each word means in your book? So the title, I'm talking about the title here. Can you please repeat the title and explain what the title means so all the viewers will know?
Yes, I'll try to do that briefly. It's called the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. That's the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. And the United means that the victims of racism should be united in what they intend to do. When you get ready to do something, you should have, and you're going to do it, say, in unity with someone else, you should know exactly what it is that you're trying to do. You're not just uniting just to be uniting. What does unite mean? It means you get with someone either directly, physically, or indirectly, just through the mind or through words or through agreed upon philosophies. And this is the way, according to what I have written, you're supposed to do it. You don't unite physically, whatever that means. You unite in what it is you intend to do. So what is it you intend to do? According to what I have written, replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. If you're a victim of white supremacy or you perceive yourself as being a victim, then that should be your goal. And you are in mental unity with everybody in the universe who is on that page with you. You don't have to know the person or talk to the person or anything, but you're just united in that goal. But The second word, independent. You're independent, meaning you are an individual. I could have used the word individual, but it basically means the same thing. You are an individual person. You don't give up your individuality. Even though you're in unity in your goals, you are an individual, and you will have your own way of going about doing what you're going to do, because your circumstances won't be like everybody else's. I mean, each and every person on the planet is different from each and every other person. No two people are exactly alike, not even twins. That's why they're twins. That's why there are two of them. So therefore, you have your own way and your own time frame and your own method of going about doing things, but you are in unity with everybody else in your goal, who has the same goal. All right, compensatory. Compensatory means making up for what's missing. And what is missing? Justice and correctness. The world is in a mess, so you have to compensate by making it from what it is to what it should be in all areas of activity. That's what that compensatory means. Making up for what's missing. Like when you draw unemployment compensation, you're making up for not being employed in the correct manner. Of course, everybody's employed, but then that's another story. You're either employed, there's no such thing as unemployment. You're always employed, either in doing something constructive or non-constructive. But that's another story. The key word here is compensatory, making up for what's missing. Now, you also have a code. Everybody has a code. You know, it's the code for getting up in the morning. I mean, your clock goes off. That's a code. That's a signal being sent to you. It's not a secret code. It's just a way of getting things done. Code is just a way of getting things done. Then you make that codification into a system, meaning everything that you do each and every day, try to make a system out of it once you find out that it works in the most constructive manner. Then you always do the same thing according to a code over and over again, the same way, once you find out that that is the absolute best way to go about doing it. It might be something that you do or something that you say. Now, the last word is concept, meaning this entire United Independent Compensatory Code system, last word, concept. Everything in the title of this book is strictly a concept. Suggestions that Neely Fuller is making, but he's doing it according to what? A concept. Why? Because it doesn't actually exist. This code that works against white supremacy, which is what the whole thing is for. Why? Because white supremacy is still here. So until white supremacy is replaced by the system of justice, everything that is in this book that I have written is strictly a concept, strictly something that's in my imagination and the imagination of everybody else on the planet, because racism has never been conquered.
Okay, thank you for your call. We are way past the break, so let me do it this way. Talktainment Radio is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility that have hosts delivering on various topics such as the news, lifestyle, sports, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's one that I would like to share with you, and it's simply called The Kinsman. If you're looking for a show that stimulates your mind and inspires your heart, then listen to The Kinsman, intelligent conversation with a touch of inspiration, hosted by Malik Heru. The Kinsman is lovingly dedicated to the descendants of the survivors of American chattel slavery. Feel the vibe of Malik Heru and ponder his message as he addresses the African-American experience in its various nuances and dimensions, past, present, and future. Malik Heru's message is simply this: God is with us in our quest of freedom. Now, this broadcast on Wednesdays, exclusively here on Talktainment Radio. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. We started off the conversation by talking about words, which Mr. Fuller explained. We go to the phone lines, and we are at line number 2. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. What is your question?
Good morning, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Bobby.
Good morning.
Please forgive me for slightly going off topic. I've been learning about some Jewish people who came to America in the early 1900s. They were discriminated against. They couldn't go to schools like Harvard, work in banks. But then they started forming their own banks, started developing Hollywood, and we know how some Jewish people are very successful. My question is, why did the white supremacists allow this to happen?
Oh, then those are not white supremacists as such, because you said it was religious discrimination.
Yeah, and
you said You said the people. Did you mention that the people were Jews?
Yes.
Yes. See, that's a different thing altogether. There's no correlation there. Everything that I write about has to do with color. So people discriminate all the time. Males discriminate against females, females against males sometimes. There's all types of discrimination. You don't like the way the person walks. You don't like the things that they say. People discriminate, and some of it is harmful. Some of it is quite innocent. Some of it is just a matter of choice. But you're not hurting anybody. So that word discrimination has been kicked around all kinds of ways. Now there has always been, as long as there has been religious discrimination. You have a lot of it being discussed now in the news and all over the world, where the religion of Islam is concerned. I mean, do you allow people who call themselves Muslims to do this or to do that? And that would also apply to Jews. That would also apply to Christians or to Buddhists. There are people who are called Buddhists, and people discriminate against them. And all of the people may even look alike. But one person calls him or herself a Christian. The other person says, well, I'm not a Christian, I'm a Confucianist. And so they will get into a big argument and maybe a fight about that. And so there's been all kinds of religious discrimination, you might say, and certainly bloodbaths based on religious beliefs. But the worst form and the most potent form and the dominant form of what you call discrimination, and I don't prefer to use that word because everybody discriminates every day, all day. If you just discriminate by looking at a menu and say, I'll have eggs and toast, and I won't have pancakes this morning. You're discriminating. But you're not harming anybody in doing it. But racism is the most potent form of discrimination. Now, that has nothing to do with religious discrimination except within the context of racism itself being a religion. The religion of white supremacy is the strongest religion on the planet. And anybody of any religion, if that person has color in his or her skin, is going to kowtow to the white supremacists who have the religion of white supremacy. What is religion? Religion is just a strong belief backed up by action. And the white supremacists have the purest form of religion of any people on the planet. And they are very united in what they do. They're the most united people. They get in squabbles among themselves, but their squabbles are not on a scale that is as small as the religions among other people. Their religion, larger rather. The religion of white supremacy is the dominant religion among the people of this planet. People don't look at it like a religion, but it is, because it's a strong belief backed up by action. Mm-hmm. Everybody else cuts corners on their religion. Everybody else says, well, I practice part of my religion. The white supremacists are the only people who practice every bit of their religion 24 hours a day and without let up. They don't cut corners at all. Every bit of it is practiced. Because what is that religion? Mistreating non-white people based on color.
Based on color.
That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you for your call, my brother. Thank you so much. Let's see. You're listening to The Compensatory Concept with your co-host, Mr. Bobby, along with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., live from Washington, D.C. You can get in contact with the show by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Quickly, let's go to line number 3. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Dr. Fuller, I like you because you speak in absolutes. We have a situation here, so you spoke about one of the 9 areas, religion. And I have to tie that in and say, with the Oscars and so forth. And in religion, say you trade off Santa Claus and say Santa Claus is coming for 25 days. So you trade him off with Jesus for 25 days in December. The same thing with these Oscars and so forth. Jada Pinkett made an announcement, saying maybe we should pull back. And then another lady, the actress, came on and said that, no, we shouldn't, And I have to go back to Dr. I forget his name, but he was speaking about the manumissions and so forth, where favors were given for telling on a slave and so forth. Saying that manumission, your freedom and money was given and so forth. So I want to know what your feelings are on and how it ties into entertainment and religion, and religion and all of that.
Well, if I understand your question, those white people who believe, not all white people, but those white people who believe in mistreating people based on color, make sure that they don't make any moves that are not going to have anything to do with mistreating people based on color. That's why I say they're the strongest religion. And they do this in every area of activity, not just in some. And they do it 24 hours a day. That's why they're the most powerful people on the planet. They're also the smartest people on the planet, because you cannot dominate people in the fashion that they do for as long as they have done it without being smart. That's just the laws of the universe. People who are ignorant and stupid do not dominate people who are smart. I mean, that just doesn't work. Never has worked. So it doesn't mean that other people can't get smart, but it does mean that they have made the effort to become smarter than all of the people that they dominate, because you cannot dominate people if you don't know what you're doing. And they know what you're doing. They are smarter than you are, because they're not going to be dominated if they're smarter than you are, if you are smarter than them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way that works. So the white supremacists practice racism, domination, and mistreatment of non-white people in all areas of activity. You just don't have to try to sort through it and try to figure out which area of activity. Everything that you are looking at, the white supremacists have something to do with it, and they make sure that if there's anything important, they're going to make sure that they are in total control of it, to your detriment if you have color in your skin.
Mm-hmm. All righty. TalkTameAtRadio.com. We go where you go. Check us out on WCRS-FM 98.3 Wednesday and Sunday evenings. Blogs and podcasts are available. Download TalkTameAtRadio.com app to your cell or tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. I have more of your Gmails and, of course, more of your phone calls. Coming up next, right here on TalkTameAtRadio.com.
TalkTainmentRadio.com is the premier internet radio platform offering 40-plus talk radio-style programs professionally produced, optimized for online distribution, featuring Columbus, Ohio on-air personalities. TalkTainmentRadio.com offers listeners diverse programming options covering topics such as arts and culture, love, life and relationships, technology, religion, paranormal activities, local and national politics, women's issues, alongside health and wellness. Listeners can access their favorite TalkTainmentRadio.com programs free of cost through the website. Download the TTR app to your cell phone and you can take us wherever you go. We have programs on demand to fit your schedule through our podcast. The address is TalkTainmentRadio.com.
At Word Automotive Sales, you can get a car with no credit, no interest, and no finance charges. That's right. No credit, no interest, and no finance charges. Word Automotive Sales will work with you. Call them at 614-237-5171 or stop in at 3333 East Main Street. Tell them that All in Our Family sent you. Don't forget the Word Automotive Sales.
614-237-5171. That's 614-237-5171.
I wasn't prepared to be a caregiver to Mom, but a little over a year ago, we realized she couldn't take care of herself without our help. And well, how could I not be there for her? I had no idea how hard it would be, and just what I would need to know. Things I never thought of, like how to improve her mood and, even for me, ways to stay positive. Luckily, I found the Caregiving Resource Center from AARP. It had articles about the basics that got me started, but also information about the hurdles I was facing in this new role. I could even connect with experts and hear from others who had been in my place. I know this road we're on isn't an easy one, but I'm really happy to have the extra help for her and for me.
Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving. Articles, tips, and tools to help you both care for your loved one and care for yourself. This message is brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard, so you don't need to sell all your belongings and live in a commune.
These dungarees belong to all of us now, Tom.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman.
We need a new stuntman!
You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
It's 6:42 p.m. Time for Steve Plato and his son Dylan to do the dishes. They talk about everything from the yuckiness of girls to the awesomeness of his soccer team. Sometimes they don't talk at all. Then, hey! The dreaded splash fight. It's Dad O'Clock, and it's the best time of the day. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dr. Phil here. You know, I help people solve difficult problems every day, but one problem has me stumped: childhood hunger. Nearly 16 million children in America struggle with it. Luckily, the Feeding America network of local food banks collects surplus food, giving hope to hungry children and their families. But they need your help. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
When is the best time to talk to your family about staying in touch during a disaster? Amid the chaos? Or is the best time perhaps today? Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org. My suit can still make an impression.
And my lamp can bring others a bright future.
Because when I donate my stuff to Goodwill, it helps fund job placement and training for people right in my community.
Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Go ahead. Make my day.
You got the power.
Alrighty, TalkTameAtRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can download the TalkTameAtRadio.com app to your cell or your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we started off the day speaking about words, which are very important. And if you'd like to get in, you can by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and I will try to get to them. If not, I will stack them up, and trust me, I have plenty stacked up. Donations to the show are to be to K&E, that's K and then E, World Network, Post Office Box 6184, Columbus, Ohio, 43206, and that will be in care of The Compensatory Concept. You can send a money order or a bank check. No personal checks will be accepted, and we will email you your receipt, and all donations are final. Now, the purpose is to extend The Compensatory Concept for and an additional hour, making it a 2-hour program. And our goal is to cover 1 year's worth of programming. So we hope you can get that in. Oh, and on that note, please, and I emphasize this, do not send any money to Mr. Neely Fuller. Do not do that. He is in no way connected with this portion of our program. The donations are separate. He gets no funds, no money, no nothing. But if you do want to do something, you can do this. You can get the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. That's Mr. Fuller's book. It is a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. And you can get that by going to producejustice.com, and all the information will be available for you to purchase the books. And as I understand it, they are working on getting people books, or a way to get people books who are overseas. Or is that correct, Mr. Fuller? There's something trying to be worked out?
Yes.
Okay.
People have been working on that for about 6 months. They haven't gotten it together yet.
Okay.
But they'll let me know when they do have.
Okay. All righty. And if you'd like to hear some additional Mr. Fuller, now I know that sometimes here in the Columbus, Ohio area, but you can also get it on the internet. He's on Straight Talk Live here in Columbus, Ohio. That is also on the internet. And I was reading today, Mr. Fuller, that that you're also on, I think it's WOL out of Washington, D.C. on the Carl Nelson Show.
Yes, on the Carl Nelson Show. That's I think it's 106.3. Magic 106.3, they call it.
Okay, well,
That's
for Carl
right.
Nelson, yeah,
Yes, Carl Nelson's program.
Yeah, and that emanates out of Washington, D.C., and I was reading that I believe they changed it now where it's going to be in the afternoon. Did they make you aware of that?
No, I haven't been made aware of that.
Okay, yeah.
But I am on that show periodically.
Okay.
Just every now and then, maybe once a month, maybe twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on whenever.
Okay. Okay, a question came up in our meetings about homosexuality or gay, people being gay. The question was, Mr. Fuller, I was asked to ask you, if a man or a woman who was in the gay life decided to go straight, should they tell their a mate about their past life, or should they keep it a secret?
That is a matter of what the people agree on. Any two people who decide they're going to be intimate sexually with each other, according to what I've been writing, they should tell everything about each other that they will ever want to know before they ever get to the bedroom or whatever for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they should agree. Now, if they don't feel confident enough to tell everything. Everything. In other words, there's no question that's off limits unless the two people agree that certain questions are off limits. But once you agree on that, you can't ask these questions ever.
Mm-hmm.
See, that should be the codified format.
Okay.
And I'm in the process now for the next book, the updated version of the book, of having maybe about 150 to 170 questions. I say it could be up to 200 plus
It's funny.
questions and answers.
It is funny that you mentioned that because the former co-host, Libby Rand, when this question was mentioned, she said, as Mr. Fuller said, ask questions, ask 200 questions. So it's ironic that you mentioned that 200 questions to ask. Okay, well, thank you for that response. So before we go to the phone lines, a question came in from Mr. Baptiste. He said, Mr. Fuller, is there any such thing as a part-time racist? Can white people be on the fence about racial tendencies in their daily routines? Thank you.
Well, in the system of white supremacy, every white person who is able to be a racist should be, according to what I have written, based on logic, should be, logically speaking, suspected of being a racist. Now, if the person is infantile or senile, meaning a baby, you look at a white baby, just born and whatnot, that's not a racist, according to what? According to logic. Why? The baby most likely is not able to be a racist. You have to know colors in order to be a racist. You have to be able to look at a thing or a person, a creature, and know what color that thing, that person, that creature is. You have to be able to do that. Now, also, a white person who once was a racist, but who is now senile to the extent that he or she cannot tell one color from another, is no longer a racist. You can't even suspect that person of being a racist based on what? Logic. Why? Because the person can't tell one color from another. You have to know colors in order to be a racist.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to look at a person and say, oh, that person is in that category that we have invented of colors, that color category. Oh, that person is okay, that person is black, that person is beige, that person is yellow, that person is tan, that person is dark brown. That person is a person of color, and therefore that person, because I am a white supremacist, that person is eligible to be mistreated by me, and no one is supposed to interfere with me when I am mistreating this person.
Yes,
I can do anything I want to with this person. That's what racism is. But you have to know your colors. If you don't know your colors, you can't be a racist.
Asking questions. I like that. Let's see here. I'm going to go line number one. Okay, line number one. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Good morning, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller.
Good morning. Go ahead.
Yes, I received Mr. Fuller's book last week.
Good.
Last week, and I just have a question, Mr. Fuller. On page 53, you're talking about not stealing and not robbing from, I would say, the white supremacists. And I'm a little confused because when you look at historically, like, greats like Harriet Tubman, she literally robbed or stole and even killed for our people from the white supremacists because we were considered their property at one time. So I don't understand how you can actually steal or rob from a thief. So I just wondering if you could just expound on that, please.
Robbing and stealing gets to be a habit. And black people already have that habit too much. As far back as I can remember, there were white people in the South, particularly in the southern part of what they call the United States. They would say, well, if something is missing, one of those Negroes stole it. We just automatically assume that because that's what these people do. They steal. Okay, well, the white supremacists steal whole groups of people, whole continents of people. okay? But you don't want to be like them. The whole mantra of the system of the compensatory code is to establish a system of justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. So why is that one of the 10 stops? Don't rob and don't steal from anybody, because it gets to be a habit. Once you start robbing and stealing, anybody who robs and steals knows this. Someone who has pulled a robbery on the street, most likely that's not going to be their last robbery if they got away with it. I mean, they say, well, that worked pretty well. I mean, he didn't put up no fuss and whatnot. He gave me his wallet. I got that North Face jacket off of him. I took his brand new shoes and whatnot, and I got his wallet, and I used a credit card, and that worked pretty well. I might do that again, So they do it again. Everybody who's out there who's done that has a tendency to keep doing it. That's not going to be their last time. So you will do this when you get a whole lot of power, too, because that's all you've ever known, and you've gotten away with it. People have a tendency to keep doing the things that they have gotten away with, and black people need to get rid of that. We don't want a world like that. We might as well keep the one that we got if we're just going to have people running around doing that type of thing. So that's one of the first things we want to get rid of with ourselves. And we let the racists know we're not stealing nothing. We may take you away from your things, but we are not going to take your things away from you. Okay? That's the deal. That's what we should say to the entire white supremacist world. Oh, yeah. We will not take not one dime, not one toothpick, not a toothpick from you without your permission. But if you keep mistreating me, and this is in the book, if you keep mistreating me under these wartime conditions, and I keep asking you to stop, I keep asking you to stop, I keep begging you to stop, you keep mistreating me, I'm still not going to steal anything from you. I'm not going to sneak around and rob you or jump from behind the bush and try to take your wallet at gunpoint or something like that, or carjack you at the airport. I'm not going to do any of that. But if you keep mistreating me and I keep begging you to stop, keep begging you to stop, keep begging you to stop, I still won't take your things away from you. But I just might take you away from your things.
Okay, let me do this and then address this with a question. TalkTameAtRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTameAtRadio.com app to your cell or tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby on the co-host of The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. 1-877-932-9766 is the number you can call to get into the show in our remaining moments, or 7mrbobby@gmail.com is another way to get that. I turned to page 53, Mr. Fuller, and one of the things, I guess what he was, and maybe this is what the gentleman was saying, and I'm reading what you wrote in your book. There was a paragraph that was before this, which would, if people have the book, they can read it. But he was saying that the racists then act to punish their subjects because of the manner that they, the subjects, used to acquire things that they were trained to desire. Under white supremacy, racism, non-white people are directly or indirectly encouraged to steal those things that are of use for a relatively short period of time. All things considered, it is better that no person, steal from or rob anyone at any time for any reason. It is better for a non-white person, as long as he or she is subject to white supremacy, to beg for his or her needs than to steal anything at any time for any reason. This is one of the best ways to start to produce justice and to show how nothing is important without it. Okay, I got it now. So, and then it goes on to number 7, stop robbing. That was in your book, quote. Okay, got it. Okay, let's go to line number 2. Line number 2, you are now with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Morning.
Hey, this is Calvin. I'm calling from Georgia. I got a question about economics on page 60 in Mr. Fuller's book. He was talking about avoiding excess, and it said avoid acquiring things that you must serve more than they serve you. And I was trying to put that with the seventh area of activity with religion. I know a lot, Mr. Fuller, talk about the end result. And Mr. Fuller, should we worship the Creator more than we try to produce justice?
When you're trying to produce justice, you're worshiping the Creator. Because presumably the Creator believes in people producing justice. That's just a theory. I don't have any proof of that. But I think whatever created us wanted us to solve problems. Solve problems by what? By producing justice and correctness. Meaning what? Not mistreating what the Creator has created. The Creator of this universe put a lot of things here, including people, and people should not mistreat each other. They should not misuse the things that are here. This is what causes the problems. Presumably, if a Creator, and you have to assume that the people say that God is good and all like that, well, what does good mean? It means you do the correct things with all of the things that you're looking at. You interact with everything. You interact with nature. You don't poison the water. You don't poison people. You don't run around trying to find somebody to kill and think that that's funny. You don't make a game or some type of glorious exercise out of that thing called war. You don't decorate soldiers. Yes, I'm going to say it. You never tell a soldier that, hey, you did a good job of killing people, and I'm going to reward you. That's something you should be ashamed of if you are forced to do it. You don't parade in the street about killing anything. Killing is not what the Creator had in mind when the Creator created things, people, animals, and whatnot. It's not about glorifying killing, even though the Creator apparently kills everything that the Creator created. Because you have forest fires that are caused by lightning, not by somebody throwing matches around. So the Creator destroys the things that the Creator has destroyed. But that's the Creator's prerogative. We are not supposed to have that type of prerogative. We're not supposed to have that choice. We're supposed to nurture everything and make it fit into things that have a constructive result. Now, why do I say this? Because logic teaches us that.
Okay. I got a question from Jennifer. She said, Mr. Fuller, a few months ago, you mentioned that there is a specific code spoken in courtrooms. Could you please, where can I find the information on this courtroom codification?
Oh, it's not in there. It's not in there at all. It's not in the textbook. The textbook was written in 1984. But we always, I speak broadly, because everybody's situation is different. We are in court all the time, and everybody is on trial. That's the way you should look at it. There's no such thing as a courtroom per se. People call it that, but people are making judgments every day. So that's court. Court is where you make judgments.
So
you want to make the correct judgments. You want to do and say the correct things all the time, regardless of where you are. Do the best and correct things. Now, how do you know the best and correct thing to do? By trial and error, and by watching people who have failed doing other things.
Okay. Let's see, where can we find more? So there's no place where you can find more information on courtroom codification?
No, but you do the same thing in a so-called courtroom when people say you're now in court.
Okay.
You do the same things inside there that you do on the outside.
Okay.
Court is called, they call it a courthouse.
Okay.
Or a courtroom.
Okay.
But the entire world is a courthouse and a courtroom. So just make sure that you're always doing the correct thing.
All righty. Let's go to line number 3. Line number 3. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.
Oh, good afternoon, Bobby. Can you hear me, Bobby?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me. Mr. Fuller, I hear black people say on Black Talk Radio all the time. They said, "Well, we're moving towards a race war." Meaning black and white or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, they must not be listening to what you say on this program every week, because you've been saying every week on this show that we've already been captured as prisoners of war. We've been captured. Our parents were captured. Their parents before them were captured for the last hundreds of years. We currently sit as prisoners of war. So white people are not planning. Why would you have to engage war with somebody who's already been captured? I mean, and then even if we weren't captured, if white people really wanted to destroy black communities, they could send F-16 fighters over predominantly black communities and carpet bomb them and wipe them out in a couple of days if they wanted to. So this whole idea of black people coming on talk shows, radio, talking about, it's a possibility that a race war could start. No, you've been saying for us all the time we've already been captured. So get your response to that.
Yes, that's what I've been saying. But, people have a tendency to, it's habit. That's what it is. You usually think the same way you've always thought. Even when somebody is telling you something different, you're really tuning it out and thinking the way you always thought, which is okay, because at some point you might choose to think differently or look at things a different way. I have been saying we are already a captured people. The war is still going on, by the way, because what is a war? It's nothing but conflict that continues. So as long as you have people resisting their captivity, the war is still going on. When people stop resisting, then that war is over. But the war between those who believe in racism and those who don't, so far, the victims of that war, the non-white people of this entire planet, have been prisoners of war. The white supremacists are not trying to capture black people. Black people are already captured and have been for generations. We are already prisoners of war. We are already in the prison called the entire planet, because the white supremacists dominate every non-white person on this planet 24 hours a day in every area of activity. So we're already prisoners of that war. And so therefore we just keep asking the warden not to do this and not to do that, Black Lives Matter and all like that. They're not walking around saying, we matter. Yes, they'll say it, in a joking fashion, but the white supremacist says, we're the only people that matter. You people are nothing but prisoners. And I do what I want to with all of you, not some of you, all of you. It's none of you who are exempt from me, who are exempt from my captivity. So, but you try to break out the prison, you want to change the prison into some Garden of Eden or something like that, and you can attempt that, but I will continue to do what I do until I decide I'm not going to do it anymore. And that's the status where we are right now. That's the white supremacist voice talking.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, my brother. We have come to the close of this program. Sorry that I didn't get a chance, or I apologize that I didn't get a chance to get to your calls. We just simply ran out of time. However, we are continually working on expanding the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. We are going to do that by having you write to the K&E World Network, Post Office Box 6184, Columbus, Ohio, 43206. That's in care of the compensatory concept. You can send a money order or bank check. No personal checks, and we will email you your receipt, and all donations are final. And the purpose of this is to extend the compensatory concept for and an additional hour, making it a 2-hour program. Our goal is to cover 1 year's worth of programming. You do that, send your donations in, and we can do that, and in that way we can answer all of your phone calls. Mr. Fuller, thank you. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, radio the way it should be heard. We will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com.